Hello Fantasy Faithfuls and welcome to DeAndre Hopkins, a Fantasy Snapshot for 2020.
Community here in Houston. Watson out to his right, end zone wide open. Pass caught, Hopkins for the touchdown.
In 2020, the Arizona Cardinals and DeAndre Hopkins will be facing a group of teams that last year gave up 551 fantasy points to wide receivers for PPR, 8th most in the NFL, with 12.5 yards per reception and 15 touchdowns on average. Breaking down his receiving, Hopkins has fantastic receiving trends. He is mostly targeted to the short left, with very few targets going to the right. The short middle receives a ton of targets as well, while all deep zones are even as can be. His catch rate is the best in the short left for perfect synergy with his targets, and the other two short zones have well above 60%, which is the benchmark. Only concern is the deep right that is under the 40% a top receiver usually has in that zone. His yards per catch is very concerning in the short left, tons of targets, great catch rate, but he doesn't get that much from these catches. The short middle on the other hand is a massive threat for him, and the deep left is one of the best in the entire NFL. The opponents that fits his trends the best is the New York Jets. They gave up 25.1 yards per catch, and opposing receivers had a catch rate of 57% in the deep left zone, so be sure to start him in DFS for that game. I would like to take a second to remind you to hit that like button, leave a comment what you think about this video, and subscribe to the channel. I love every interaction I have with y'all, and every little bit helps me put out even more content. Nuke's one-game floor is 11.6 points and ceiling 26.5 based on the last 3 years in PPR. This ranks as the third highest floor and sixth highest ceiling for receivers, which are just amazing stats. The likeliness of him scoring above the ceiling and booming is good at 2.5, while his bust risk below the floor is a little higher than previous years at 1.9%. His touchdown rate last year was 4.7, almost identical to Michael Thomas, but with fewer targets, this means fewer touchdowns, which is unfortunate. Based on my market share study, I have him predicted for 135 targets and 96 receptions, of course assuming that Kyler Murray is his quarterback for all 16 games. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't as stable as he's been in previous seasons, but he was still very usable, and his good games were freaking great. 9 usable weeks puts him as the second most usable wide receiver after Michael Thomas from the New Orleans Saints. The situation breakdown for Nuke shows that he scores more points at home, even if he now won't be playing his home games for the Houston Texans. I don't see him changing that much, especially as he's very even against good defenses and winning teams with little fluctuation in his scoring in all the situations that I measured. He only had 13 red zone targets last year, and with those targets scored 4 touchdowns, which is great as the success rate isn't too high or too low. Hard to predict his red zone targets in Arizona, but it's difficult to see him getting fewer than 13, as that is very low for a top-end wide receiver. The average risk of him not scoring above 10 fantasy points last year was 50%, which places him in the third tier of risky wide receivers with the likes of Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp, so still great company. Based on his current ADP of 12th overall and all the numbers I laid out in this video, I give him a draft grade of B+. He fits so well with Kyler Murray and the Cliff Kingsbury offense, and all his personal stats are terrific, but a new team is always a new team, so I couldn't give him more than a B+.
Watson to Hopkins, he's got it, touchdown! DeAndre Hopkins!
Hello Fantasy Faithful, I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to check out more of them right here and here. In case you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat.